Hi guys, my name is Esther Muthoni and I'm back with a new video, and today we shall be discussing about safe reopening of the churches. So the Interfaith Council was mandated to come up with guidelines and protocols to ensure that as we go back to church that we are safe. As we worship, we don't put our lives in danger. So join me as we go through this discussion. The Constitution of Kenya acknowledges the supremacy of Almighty God and guarantees freedom of worship. However, the COVID-19 pandemic has limited freedom of worship not only in Kenya but globally, creating the need to balance and protect both the right to health and the freedom of worship. So the Interfaith Council, through its chairman Archbishop Patrick Muheria, has been mandated to develop protocol guidelines to support the government's preparedness, response, and containment of COVID-19 pandemic. As we know, religious leaders play a very critical role when it comes to the times of crisis, as like now. So religious leaders, as you go back to churches, they have to ensure that we are safe and that our health is not at risk. So they're supposed to safeguard the health and safety of their congregants during worship. And then they're supposed to disseminate information regarding COVID-19 pandemic. Any information that can help the members and congregants to protect themselves better, then religious leaders should not withhold such information. And then they have to advocate for improved health, especially mental health. There's a lot of stress because most people have lost their jobs. You have children at home, where students are at home, most people are working at home. It is not easy for everyone, and so religious leaders, this is a very critical time to ensure that they are there for the members and the congregants, to ensure that they don't fall into depression. There's a lot of anxiety, fear going on, and so they have a role to ensure that they talk to their members, they talk to their congregants, so that they continue holding on even as we seek to overcome this pandemic. And then they have a role to sensitize their members on matters of hygiene and sanitation. Not everyone has maybe gotten this information, so they need to be there to sensitize people on the need to sanitize, the need to maintain high standard of hygiene, especially during this time. And then to provide care, support, and attention for those affected and infected with COVID-19. So they have to be there for their congregants and their members. As well, there are general norms for places of worship. So the guidelines states that before opening of the churches, that they must meet this criteria. Before you go to church, you have to ensure you're wearing a mask, covering nose and mouth. You're washing your hands with soap and water. You are keeping 1.5 meter social distance, disinfecting places of worship regularly and avoiding contact. Avoid use of fans and instead use natural ventilation. Serving food and drinks, they're not allowed, so don't do that in church. Singing is discouraged. Instead, listen to music recordings. So these will be the general norms as we resume back to the churches. And then there are public health measures that should be put in place even as you go back to the churches, like proper ventilation of places of worship. Windows and the doors should remain open to allow free circulation of air. And then protection of vulnerable population. Children aged between 12 years and below are not allowed to church, and if you are aged 58 years and above, you're not allowed to church. And so religious leaders have to ensure that they are protecting this vulnerable population, because the immunity is a bit weaker compared to other people. And then keeping members' attendance register for ease of contact tracing. So in case someone tests positive and they attended a worship, there's a need to trace the contacts, the people they came across with, to ensure that they are safe, they are tested, and their status is known. As well, there will be temperature monitoring and referrals by use of thermogun. So if your temperature is extreme and it is exceeding the temperature that is required of a normal a normal person, then you'll be referred to a healthy facility where you will be checked to see your status, whether you are positive or negative, yeah, so that you can get help. So the opening of the churches will be in phases. For now, we are in phase 1. So during phase 1, for weddings, we have to maintain 1.5 meters physical distance, and a maximum of 50 people will be allowed to weddings. So only a maximum of 50 people will be allowed to attend a wedding. And then when you are there, make sure you sanitize, you're washing the hands with soap and running water. And then food is not allowed during this ceremony. Ritual dancing should be discouraged, so there is no dancing. So as we celebrate the couples who are getting married, let's make sure that we are observing these guidelines. For now, we are in phase 1. Yeah, let's keep the guidelines. Let's flatten the curve. So for funerals and burials, the funeral congregation worship should be held in open space. Attendance to funeral should be limited to a maximum of 100 people. Any form of contact with COVID-19 dead body should be avoided unless by a trained personnel. Yeah, the graveside congregational worship should be limited to a maximum of 15 people. Then the COVID-19 funeral congregation worship should only last for about an hour, so it should not be more than that. And then the COVID-19 victim burial should be observed under the general Ministry of Health guidelines. And then you should not eat. So if you go to a funeral, especially in phase 1, don't eat. We know that handling food can lead to contacting of COVID-19. So don't share water, don't share anything, just go home and eat there. For phase 2, yeah, we are hoping that then the spread will have reduced. So for weddings, you have to maintain 1.5 meter physical distance for phase 2, and then a maximum of 100 people. And then for burials, we will have a maximum of 200 people. And then graveside congregation, maximum of 50 people. And then nuclear family will be allowed to eat. And then you have to follow other guidelines as per the Ministry of Health. And then for phase 3, weddings, you have to maintain 1.5 meter physical distance, a maximum of 150 people. And then food is allowed to up to 100 family members only, and then you have to follow other guidelines. Burials, maximum of 300 people. Graveside congregation, maximum of 70 people. The COVID-19 funeral congregation worship should be conducted within 2 hours. Only nuclear family is allowed to eat. Yeah, so make sure that you follow these guidelines. Make sure you follow these guidelines. For phase 4, weddings and funerals and marriages, yeah, we can attend all of them because we are hoping that COVID-19 will be over and everyone can now attend church, including the children and even the older people. So thank you guys for watching, and thank you. Let's keep learning on what we can do, yeah, to keep safe for ourselves and our loved ones. If you have not subscribed, kindly click on the subscribe button. Until next time, keep safe and cheers.